What an honor it is to stand here before you tonight. Oklahomans have spoken, and we want change. You know, this victory is not about Republicans or Democrats or rural versus urban. Tonight's victory is about Oklahomans ending politics as usual and the status quo that has left our state in last place.
In Jenks, Oklahoma, Gateway Mortgage.
So my passion and my vision has always been to bring Oklahoma into a top 10 state.
As Mick Cornett was giving his concession speech, a roar from the crowd here going up when Mick Cornett said it's likely he will no longer be on another ballot. Brent Starkey is live at the Cornett camp with the latest on this race sprint.
To get there, we're going to have to make some tough decisions over the next couple years. But together, we can end politics as usual. And we can demand that our state government be held accountable and transparent. And unify our state for a bold new future. Because guys, the answers to our problems is not bigger government. It's smarter government. And it's smaller government. And it's a government that we deliver core services effective and efficiently. You know, I've been traveling all over our state for the last 15 months. And I've thought a lot about my 6 children. And a lot about your children. And isn't that what we're here for? To give our children and grandchildren a brighter future where they can accomplish everything they want to in our state. And as your next governor, my promise to you is that I'm always going to be focused on strengthening all Oklahoma families for the next generation and not the next election. So,
it's the hottest race in the state right now, the Republican runoff for governor. Mick Cornett and Kevin Stitt slugging it out, and we have the former mayor right now on Flashpoint.
Now, moderator Kevin Ogle with Mike Turpin and Kirk Humphreys. This is Flashpoint.
Good morning and welcome to Flashpoint. Well, you've seen the ads on both sides, and now we have with us Mick Cornett, the former mayor of Oklahoma City, in the runoff for the governor's race, the Republican runoff. And we're glad you're with us, Mayor, former mayor of Oklahoma City. So you're still titled mayor. That's what people call
Always
you.
a mayor.
And we call you mayor because you were a
very few do, but most of them call him mayor.
We want to tell you this, too. For you folks that are wondering where Kevin Stitt is for this particular episode of Flashpoint, you talked to his people.
I did, and they couldn't work it out. I gave them several different dates. They refused to participate.
Okay.
They weren't mad about it. They just said, we've been on before. We're not going to be on again. We can't work it into a schedule. Okay. There you go.
All right. So
Mike, that's because you were so charming the last time he was on.
I mean, it had something to do with it. We did cross-examine him pretty good. I'm not sure he wanted to come back. Yeah. Well, but we've invited him back. We gave him several different dates. They said, we just can't work it out.
Well, hey, we're down to showtime. I mean, a week from Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's here.
Mick, how's it going?
Well, it's going really well. I think it's all going to come down to turnout. You know, August elections. As I travel the state and talk to people, they'll tell me I'm a determined voter. And then the more I listen to them, I think they're thinking November.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if they're an August voter, because that's really another level of civic mindedness. Mm-hmm. And we need August voters to get out. We should be fine if we can get turnout.
This past Friday, one of the big days in your campaign, because you got the endorsement of Kevin Stitt's hometown newspaper, the Tulsa World. You already had the Daily Oklahoman, the Oklahoman here in Oklahoma City. Comment on that.
Well, we got the Tulsa World endorsement back in June, first of all, for the first round of primaries. And then, as you mentioned last Friday, they came out with another endorsement. And I think really gave a good intellectual argument, weighed the benefits of both candidates, their hometown guy, and electing me. And they come up with me being the best choice. I urge people to go to their website and take a look at the article, because I think it's a very convincing argument about why I'm the better choice.
Is it rare for the Tulsa newspaper to endorse an Oklahoma City guy?
Yeah.
I sure didn't get it. But, you know, Ed Gaylord said, I'll be for you or against you, whichever one's more helpful. So you don't know.
I got them both back in the AG. Anyways, that's ancient history. How come you're running so well in Tulsa?
Well, I think we have a good message. And I think people in Tulsa paid attention to the successes in Oklahoma City. And I think everyone across the state thinks right now we got to bring this state together. We've been fighting urban versus rural. We've been fighting Oklahoma City versus Tulsa. We understand the Republicans versus the Democrats. That's kind of consistent throughout the country. But we've become our own worst enemy. And I think I have a reputation of being a consensus builder, a problem solver, and someone who can get things done. And I know from listening to people, that's exactly what people are looking for right now. And I think that's why we've gotten so much attention.
Oh, your secret weapon up in Tulsa.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, if it's my secret weapon, that would be my wife, Terry, who spent 25 years up there.
Not very secret.
Not secret, but people may not know she's from Tulsa.
Well, she grew up in Veneta, but worked for over 25 years in the Tulsa market. Was in the sales side of the business up there, and has a wonderful number of friends, and was very active in the Tulsa Chamber. And she's been able to introduce me to a lot of people that I didn't know originally. Turns out, we only met 6 years ago. We had a lot of mutual friends, but we didn't know each other. Yeah. And so it's been nice to see people that we've both known for years and who are extremely happy for.
Right here in the state of Florida, we are going to remind this nation of what is truly the American way. Is truly the American way, which simply is that you can start from the bottom, Richmond Heights, South Dade County, and make your way literally to the top of this state.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jackie Nesbro.
And I'm Jawan Schroeder. Good evening to you out there. Well, there you just heard Andrew Gillum, the Democrat, scoring a stunning Florida primary win and the historic opportunity to be the first black governor in Florida's history. Gillum held a close lead over his close rival, former U.S. Representative Gwen Graham.
On the Republican side, President Trump's favored candidate, Ron DeSantis, declared victory after riding the wave of president's endorsement all the way to the ballot box.
NBC6 is your decision 2018 station. We have crews fanned out across South Florida and the state, bringing you up-to-date information on the results of the races and issues important to you. NBC6 investigator Willard Shepard kicks off our team coverage in Tallahassee, where Gillum is celebrating his victory tonight. Willard.
Yeah, Jawan, he certainly is. When you really think about this, is a fairy tale that is taking place here in Tallahassee tonight. The gubernatorial candidate now on the Democratic side from here in Tallahassee, the mayor, he went to the polls earlier today, voted himself saying, we can actually do this. And 10 hours later, that was the case. Let me show you the scene here from inside the ballroom in the hotel just a few blocks away from the governor's mansion that he hopes to be in come November. The Gillum came out tonight speaking to his supporters, saying they had actually pulled it off. He made a huge dent over the last couple of days in South Florida. And here's what he said when he accepted the Democratic primary victory.
As the mayor of Florida's capital city, I humbly accept the Democratic nomination. The job of the governor of the state of Florida is to do what is in the best interest of the people of the state of Florida. I look forward to being that governor.
So now we ask his supporters what really made a difference here concerning him coming from really behind in the polls, surging late, and then coming out with this stunning victory. And what they had to say to us is that bus trip he made to South Florida, other portions of the state where people did not know him very well, his message about health care, gun control, changing the stand your ground law here in the state of Florida, and health care for all, those really resonated. They made a difference. Now he moves on to face DeSantis in November. Reporting live here in Tallahassee tonight, Willard Shepard, NBC6 News.
All right, Willard, and speaking of DeSantis, our coverage moves now to DeSantis' camp in Orlando. That's where we find NBC6 anchor Johnny Archer with more. Johnny.
Hey there, Jawan. Yeah, that's right. This was a huge win for Ron DeSantis tonight, taking away 56% of the votes. I talked to his camp earlier, and they were very confident about coming into the primary election, beating Adam Putnam, who at one point was a shoo-in for the Republican nomination. That was until President Trump came out to endorse Ron DeSantis. A major victory for Ron DeSantis, a U.S. representative now taking the Republican gubernatorial nomination in Florida. More than 200 supporters came to cheer on DeSantis. One of his biggest supporters, his first-grade teacher. Her reaction after it was announced he won the primary.
I started to cry. My eyes teared up. I was so happy. And he will become the governor of the state of Florida.
DeSantis looking to fill Rick Scott's seat as governor.
And I want to thank him for his leadership, leading our state, focusing like no other governor has on jobs, jobs, jobs.
DeSantis says he spoke to President Trump Tuesday night, who congratulated him on his win. The president first showing support for DeSantis in a tweet back in December.
And it's very difficult to get known statewide. A lot of times it costs tens of millions of dollars. So with one tweet, that kind of put me on the map.
Now DeSantis will face Andrew Gillum, who had a shocking win for the Democratic nomination.
Well, I'm not surprised that there was an upset, but we'll just have to see. I watched him in the debates. I think that he is way too liberal for the state of Florida.
Earlier specifically about what he thought.
Now, DeSantis has not named a lieutenant governor yet, but he says it's going to be someone who can step in as governor if need be. He says it's going to be someone who can help advance his agenda and be very actively involved. But he says right now they'll be focusing the campaign on the general election in November. We're live in Orlando. Johnny Archer, NBC 6 News.
It's the carefree, car-free way to travel. Book now. GoBrightline.com.
And as you might imagine, with hundreds of thousands of you going to the polls today, there will be some glitches or some mistakes out there. NBC6 is taking your calls and online complaints on what issues you are encountering today. NBC6 investigator Tony Pipitone in the newsroom with us this midday with some of what we've heard. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. Well, sometimes the early bird gets the worm, and sometimes he gets frustrated trying to vote. The latter was the case at two locations in Broward County this morning. First, at Towngate Park in Pembroke Pines, people were showing up around 7 a.m., but there were no machines there for them to vote on. We're told at least 8 people were unable to stick around to wait for the machines to arrive. So they're being contacted by the election supervisor, and they're trying to help them get ballots or get back to the facility to vote before 7. The other issue affected some early risers at a precinct at Coconut Creek City Hall. There was a problem with an electronic roll. So some people were being told they had voted already when in fact their ID was only been swiped twice that morning, and it recorded the first swipe as if a ballot had been cast, but it wasn't. Those people are being brought ballots or told they can return to the site and go to the front of the line. We're told about 8 people were...
Mayor Andrew Gillum was hoping for. This crowd is ecstatic, and you could feel the energy growing as the preliminary numbers started rolling in. The campaign was hoping the momentum over the last 2 weeks would carry them through tonight. But 2 weeks ago, with the endorsement of Bernie Sanders, the polls that once had him trailing the pack began showing him surge. And that's been the magic word of the Gillum campaign lately, the surge in the polls. The win is historic in so many ways, especially when you look at campaign finances. Compared to his opponents, he was outspent almost 10-1. He was going up against millionaires and billionaires in this race. And tonight, he won the Democratic nomination for Florida governor. He spoke about a wide variety of issues that he wanted to address if he becomes the next governor of the state of Florida. And that in and of itself would be extremely historic. He would be the first black governor of this state. Here's what he had to say during his speech.
Who said that this moment would not be possible? It's a few. And then there were a few more who believed that this thing was possible. I realize that for some, they are just tuning into the possibility of what this means for all of us, right? There's some. And I want you to know, as I have said, as I moved all across the state of Florida, that this thing is not about me. It never has been, and it never will be. This race is about every last single one of us, right?
Now, as I mentioned, the campaign credits a lot of his surge to the fact that Bernie Sanders endorsed him. And earlier this evening, Bernie Sanders released a statement congratulating Andrew Gillum for his nomination for the Democratic candidate for governor. It is still a large party out here, no doubt. This party.
What this means for all of us, right? There's some. And I want you to know, as I have said, as I moved all across the state of Florida, that this thing is not about me. It never has been, and it never will be. This race is about every last single one of us, right? Those of us in this room, those of us outside of this room, those of us who voted for me, those who did not vote at all, those who couldn't vote for me because they may be Republicans. But you want to know something? I want to be their governor too. Right? I want to be their governor too. Because our story, as y'all have heard me say so many times over the course of this race, our story, for me, began down in Richmond Heights and Miami-Dade County, to my mother Frances, who's here with me, who was a school bus driver, and my daddy Charles, growing up, who was a construction worker. In fact, when my father didn't have construction work to do, you would find him on a street corner selling fruits or vegetables. On Saturday morning, he would set up his fruit stand and his flower stand across the street from the cemetery and sell flowers to bereaved families. Between my mother and father, they are the best examples of hard work that I know to this day. They're the ones. They are the ones who have taught me what persistence is. Before I could define the terms of the word, I knew what it meant not to quit. I knew what it was to persevere. I knew what it meant to silence and quiet the haters. Right? The naysayers. I love you back. I love you back. But because of their example, it instilled in me a quality of hard work that I'll never forget. As the fifth of 7 kids and the first of my siblings to graduate from high school and the first to graduate from college, you can't tell anybody in our family we don't know what it means to see intergenerational poverty interrupted at the hands of a good public education. It is those very same GHS, my high school. It's those very same public school teachers who poured into me, who told me I could when I thought I couldn't, who told me that I could go further even when I thought I had reached my limits. It was those teachers who made it possible for me to go to college at the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, FAMU. I cannot thank enough my Florida A&M University family who have held me up all throughout this race. But I also can't hesitate to thank those people who didn't know me from Adam Cat, who, as I traveled around the state, they took hold of our vision and our mission and our plans for a state that makes room for all of us. Not just the well-heeled and the well-connected, but all of us. And I sincerely believe that what is going to deliver us to victory in November is the fact that there are everyday hardworking people in this state who believe that they deserve a voice in our government too, and we're going to give it to them. We're going to give it to them. The point has never been lost on me that my name on the ballot is simply a vessel. It's simply is simply the name. But what is underneath that name are all the issues that we care so deeply about. What's beneath my name is the belief that we ought to pay teachers what they are worth for doing the most difficult job that exists on earth. What is beneath my name is our belief that our public education system and our public tax dollars ought to be used for the public education system to educate and lift all kids. What is beneath my name, what is behind and beneath my name is a belief, a very deep and passionate belief, that anybody who works a full-time job, who gets up every day of the week, who spend 40 hours full-time giving themselves and their life into their profession, into their work. It is my belief that they ought to earn a wage that they can live on and not be paid poverty wages as they render service into people into this state. What I also believe is that folks ought to be able to work one job, not 2 or 3, but one full-time job as a way to make ends meet. What is beneath my name is the belief that we deserve a governor who actually believes in science. Actually believes in science. Who is going to arrest back control of our Department of Environmental Protection and make it mean something again. Where we have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, oceans that are not contaminated with red tide and blue-green algae suffocating off our sea life. There's not a profit margin in the state of Florida that ought to be able to rob us of those elements of clean water, clean air, and good oceans. What is beneath my name is a belief that we have to treat healthcare in this state like a right and not a privilege. I believe that. And it begins by expanding Medicaid for over 700,000 of the most medically needy people in this state. You can also rest assured that when I'm governor of the state of Florida, if the president decides to send us $2.4 billion to build high-speed rail across the I-4 corridor, we're going to bring that money right here into the state of Florida. Right? Right? Because the truth is that these aren't Republican or Democratic issues. The job of the governor of the state of Florida is to do what is in the best interest of the people of the state of Florida. I look forward to being that governor because I know that beneath my name is also a desire by the majority of people in this state to see real criminal justice reform take hold in the state of Florida. The kind of criminal justice reform that allows people who make a mistake to be able to redeem themselves from that mistake, return to society, have their right to vote, but also have their right to work, to earn a good wage. You all, this is not my moment, this is our moment. This is our moment. We could not be here today were it not for the struggle, the contributions, the hard work, the organizing, the self-organizing, the folks who, when we went into places and we didn't have flyers to hand out, I went back a week later and they had made their own flyers, right? The places where we had no volunteer organization, people began to self-organize and volunteer. We're in this place because of the everyday people of this state, and I can't go any further without at least acknowledging that I'm here because I'm buoyed up on both my left and my right side. My rib, the wind beneath my wings, the woman who makes me smile just a little bit wider. The woman who, in my absence, has been an amazing mother, an amazing partner. And y'all, she's going to be an amazing first lady for the state of Florida. My wife. I love you. I love you, baby. Love you. We together with all of you over the next several months are going to make our way all across the state of Florida to red counties, to blue counties, to purple counties, and we're going to unite this state in ways that are unparalleled in the history of the state of Florida.